Okay, lots of new news stories I get to talk about today. Really excited. First, we're going to talk about and break down the Starbucks story, what I think about that. Then some things are going on with North Korea. I'm going to talk about that, break it down. And a shooter in Nashville, Tennessee. We're going to talk about that. It wasn't as bad as a Florida shooter, but it's still a shooter. I'm going to talk about that and some other things. My name, before my name, what is today? Today is Monday, April 23rd, 2018. My name is Jason Riley, and this is the Riley Report. I need to re-record that guitar thing. I can make it sound a lot better, I bet. So anyway, we're going to talk about Starbucks. I'm going to explain what happened. So, to my knowledge, there was two African-American men who were waiting for a friend at a Starbucks. And they had not purchased a drink. And it was in Philly, I think. Or purchased anything from the store. And so they were just waiting in the Starbucks for their friend who was coming, and I believe that they were asked to leave. They didn't, so the police were called, and they told them to leave, and they said no, and then they were being arrested when their friend showed up. So, a lot of people are jumping, this is racism, this is racism, this is racism. Is it? No, I don't think so. I think this would have happened if there was like a white man two white guys that were just standing there doing nothing, because I am aware that in that area, I believe it was known that the Starbucks in that area had multiple Starbucks had a strict no loitering policy. And did the person were they reasonably arrested? Yes, they were breaking the law. They should have gotten up and left somewhere else when they were not, when they were asked to leave, which they didn't. So, and you can always just go to a different store, okay? You can wait at another store who will let you there. And what's really funny is sitting back and laughing at the leftists who are boycotting leftist Starbucks. I think that's hilarious. There's like a civil war going on inside there. But I want to talk about that I really don't like when people say that the racism is still a huge problem in America. Sure, I'm not going to tell you that racism isn't a problem at all and that there aren't any more racists, because there are. There are still members of the KKK that are out here. We had that white supremacist march or whatever like last year, right? So there is still racism, and it's still a problem, but it's not nearly as major as it was, 40 years ago? Even 90s, it was bad. But in the 80s, it was much worse than it is today. In fact, it's even, I wrote this whole 11-page thing on modern discrimination that explains how it's reversed the other way, and actually how black people have a better chance at getting into colleges than white people for, I'm doing air quotes as I say this, for diversity in their colleges. Like, that's actually just racism. So, I don't really at all think that racism is a huge problem in America, because you don't need to think of, because nobody can, of everybody you know. And if you're not able to list them, but if you had a list in front of you of people you knew and talked to every once in a while and encountered on a decent basis, you would have maybe a few hundred people on that list, especially if you're like a high schooler like me. And I would like you to think of one person, or just even a few people that you know are racist and have acted specifically racist. For most people, it's very difficult to do if they can do it. A lot of people probably can't. I know I can't. It's such a societal thing of us to hate on racism. Society doesn't like racism anymore. If you're going to tell me that that's true, everybody who's saying that racism is a problem is society. And that's generally speaking for society. I really don't think that racism is a problem in America nowadays, especially from society. It's really asinine to suggest that, considering America really is the freest country in the world and has the most in terms of opportunity, is the least racist for any minority. I know somebody's going to try to tell me that, well, you're not a black person, well, you're not a woman, but as if I were, I would not want to be anywhere else than America, because I would know I have more chance of getting into college. I always make a joke with my brother, like, oh, I should identify as a half black, half Native American so I can get in the more colleges or have a better chance at getting in the better schools. So, I mean, that's a serious issue, and it's just really bothering to me that people think there is racism when they can't really point at any racists. If you think there racism is a problem in society, point to the racists, and then we will try to eradicate them or explain that something is just not racism. Sometimes it seems like people are looking for racism, and like they want racism to be there so that they have something so that I don't get it really, because I really don't think it is. And the whole Ferguson things, I think that's a bunch of bull crap. I don't know why I mentioned that, because it's really not really in context. But there are lots of other people who agree with me, other minorities that agree with me. I think I think Jason Riley, who does a really good job speaking on this. I think it's really funny that we have the same name. I actually saw, when I was visiting Purdue, I saw a sign for an event he was doing. My dad took a picture of it. It was really funny. So we have the same name. But that's my take on that. I think it's really important to realize, to look around I think if you think racism is a huge problem in society, open your eyes and look around you and talk with people and try to find events of racism on a daily basis if it's such an awful societal problem. You should be able to find them easily on a daily basis if it's such a societal problem. So that's my take on that. Especially I really don't like how there are people who are still alive, like that were sprayed down with fire hoses and attacked with police dogs to try to go to school. I think to complain that racism exists today when there are people that are around that had to do that where racism actually existed is actually pretty terrible. I mean, I think it's ridiculous. I'm going to move on now. North Korea. Chugging through this. North Korea, you're getting informed today. So North Korea has officially came out and said they're de-nuclearizing. Do I buy it? Not really. So here's what is in Kim Jong-un's mind. Nobody can really tell you that. He wants power. He wants to stay in power for as long as possible. And so he will look more powerful to his people if he can come out and say, I had a meeting with Trump. I'm that important. I'm a big boy now. I have big boy pants on because I met with the president of the most powerful nation in the world. Well, they will tell you not otherwise, that we are not. But he will feel really good about himself that he was able to meet him. And he knows that he's trying to do what he can to put on a show for America so he can meet Trump. I think that as soon as the meeting happens, he'll go back to nuclearization. Because of previous history of making claims, North Korea's previous history of making claims to denuclearize themselves, I don't think it's going to happen. Kim Jong-un needs to stay powerful, and these nukes is all he has to stay powerful. So next, there was a shooting in Tallahassee, Tennessee. Apparently, some guy, I think I heard he was naked too, killed 4 people, I think, with an AR-15, I believe, in a Waffle House in Nashville, Tennessee. From what I've heard, I believe the story is, I'm not going to confirm that this is exactly true or anything, because this is very recent, a very recent story. Somebody, so his card was stripped from him. It was illegal for him to purchase his guns, and he owned guns, but they were confiscated and given to his father. His father is very irresponsible, because what did he do with the guns? He handed them straight back to his son. which is what led to his ability to do this. Now, I think charges should be definitely pressed against that father, because I believe there is blood on his hands. He is one of the reasons that this happened. If the police and FBI have reason to believe that somebody in your family should not have guns, you should not be giving them guns. I don't understand that concept. And people need to be more responsible with what they're doing. Like, if you want to talk about the Sandy Hook shooter, it wasn't his gun, it was his mother's gun that she didn't keep locked up when she had a mentally ill person in their house. She wasn't a good or bad person, she was a irresponsible person, not responsible person. These are the kind of things that we can't let happen. This guy needs to be charged and arrested. The father for doing this. This is not something. It is like I've said, as a lot of you may know. This is taking the guns. The guns are not the problem. It is solely the irresponsibility of our police force, and sometimes in this case our police force did the right thing. It was another irresponsible citizen. I think it should have been made very clear to the father that his son was not allowed to have these guns. If this is the case, I am talking from uncertainty here about the case, but I will probably be talking about this again next week, because as more details come out about it, I will continue to talk about it. And also in what city? Toronto. There was a van, an assault van. Not just any van. This was an assault van that mowed down several pedestrians in Toronto. Like I said. Oh, great. So, assault van is what it is. I didn't see that. I didn't see a headline that called it an assault van, but any leftist should logically be calling it an assault van, because it is hitting people. But this is proof you can attack people without a gun. So there you go. And I did just hear something on the radio, right? And I heard that thing right when I got home and started to get ready to do this. Another thing was I heard on the radio was Indiana law specifically. There's a lawsuit from Planned Parenthood about something. I'm sure they're wrong. I can't tell you what it's about. I just heard there was. But I mean, I probably shouldn't have talked about that considering I knew nothing about it. But that is going to conclude today's episode. And there's my take on some of the things. Just subscribe if you're on YouTube or iTunes. And if you prefer one or the other, switch. I'm on both. YouTube, iTunes, podcasts. Sorry, I'm not on Google Play. But I'm not. I will be here next week for another 10 to 15 minute episode as normal. My name is Jason Riley, and this is the Riley Report.